Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Beef Upfront podcast here on Pick Swap Media. This is your host, Ryan Coyle, back with another Fantasy Football Weekly episode for the Stardom Situm list. Last week, regret to inform you, we fell for the third time on the season. We're now 6-3 on the season. Besides our mini 2-week bye, we've done it every week so far. Only lost by 1 point on our start list last week. We had 98 points from the start, 99 from the sit. And our one player, Kadarius Toney, on our start list got injured in the first quarter and had 0 points, did not return. So if he played and would have just got 2 points, we would have had another victory and would have went to 7-2 on the season. But 6-3 still, we've had a really good year. Just run through this start list to recap real quick. 98 points, like I said, only losing by 1. We had Justin Fields. He finished as the 7th best fantasy quarterback last week. Daniel Jones, he finished as 3rd. So 2 nice hits there. Running back, we struggled. Miles Sanders, 37th, and Brian Robinson, 38th. Getting back on track this week, though. Wide receivers, we had Curtis Samuel finish 40th. He did find the end zone. I had that as kind of my dart throw play. He did find the end zone, but didn't do that much damage in the passing game. Kadarius Toney, as I said, 0 points. He got hurt during the first quarter. Cole Kmet finished 17th out of tight ends. Jawan Johnson finished 6th, so decent there. And then we had 49ers defense versus the Cardinals. They had 11 points, finishing 6th. And here comes the sit list. Like I said, only outgained our start by 1 point. Had 99 total points. Jimmy G versus the Cardinals. He finished 5th in fantasy this week, and Dak Prescott 9th. So pretty much a wash there on the quarterbacks, I guess you could say. Running backs, these are 2 good calls to sit. Michael Carter, 50th best running back this week, and Kareem Hunt, the 30th best. So pretty good there, an average of 40. Garrett Wilson, 77th best receiver, and Adam Thielen, 68th. Real good success there. Tight end struggled a little bit. Tyler Higbee, 9th, and Dawson Knox, 5th this past week. That was probably our biggest miss of the week, the tight end spot. And then defense, Cowboys D put up 16 points against the Vikings, finishing 4th. So losing by 1 point with a receiver out, pretty much. I could have counted it as a win, but we'll play with some integrity of the game. But we're in for a big week this week. You have playoffs coming up. Most leagues about 2 weeks. So this is a real crucial stretch. Make sure to tune in for this whole episode. We got quite a few guys playing on Turkey Day on this list. So before you're stuffing your face for Thanksgiving, make sure to tune into this entire episode as I'm giving you the start and sit options for the week for fantasy football to help you reach the playoffs or lock up that 1 seed, get that potential playoff bye. We'll start it off, as always, with the start list, looking to move the 7-3 on the season. We'll go with quarterback Geno Smith. Been throwing him on the start list a bunch this year, and he hasn't really disappointed me. Coming off the bye, he gets to play a Raiders team, one of the worst defenses in the league, especially against the pass. Real nice matchup here. I think they'll have some nice stuff kind of cooked up, nice and rusted up. Geno Smith, I will especially love them on the first drive of the game against a Raiders team that never seems prepared to play. It always seems where if they win, it's either a comeback or they're up big and they're blowing a lead. They haven't been able to put together 4 quarters all year. I think the Seahawks are able to come out, catch them off guard a bit, and have a nice first quarter against them. Geno Smith gets rolling to begin, and he has a really nice day. Second quarterback, we'll go with Tom Brady at the Browns. Bucks are coming off the bye as well, playing a Browns team who also is coming off. Excuse me, they're not coming off the bye. They're coming off a loss to the Bills last week where they gave up over 30 points. The Browns defense has just been Swiss cheese, has been terrible all season. Tom Brady, I think they're starting to figure it out, starting to gain some confidence. Guys are coming back on the offensive line and the backfield and the receiving core. Don't look now, but here come the Bucks. As always, it seems like Tom Brady is going to figure it out, and he's going to get these guys going towards the playoffs and potentially make a run there. This is another good week to get going, get some more confidence building up. I think they come out firing against the Browns this week. Go to the running backs now. We're going to go with Jeff Wilson Jr. for the Dolphins, playing the Texans, one of the bottom run defenses, if not the bottom run defense in the entire NFL. Ever since getting traded over to the Dolphins from the 49ers at the trade deadline, he's really taken the reins of that number 1 spot in the backfield. This is another team coming off the bye, so I know he's already familiar with Mike McDaniel and that kind of old San Francisco rushing offense scheme that they've run, but expect even a bigger role this week, and I expect them to get up early. Feed Jeff Wilson the ball. Just let him run out the clock. He's going to be getting a lot of carries this week. I think he's in for another big performance. Next running back, James Conner versus Chargers. Since he came back into the lineup, a few weeks ago from his rib injury, I believe it was. He's been one of the better running backs in football. He gets to play a Chargers defense that just allowed 107 rushing yards to Isaiah Pacheco. Chargers run defense has just been terrible all year. Once again, decimated by injuries. Lost two defensive tackles a few weeks ago to the season. Joey Bosa's been out for most of the season. Brandon Staley doesn't seem to know what he's doing on that side of the ball. Even though he's got the defensive pedigree or defensive background, whatever you want to call it, he runs a lot of those two high safety looks. It kind of opens up the running game. I think James Conner has another nice performance in this one. Move to the wide receivers now. We're going to go with Chris Olave at the 49ers. Has really came on these past few weeks since we kind of reached that halfway point of the year. He's really taken off and been one of the better receivers in the league. Michael Thomas out of the lineup as well. Looks like for the rest of the season, he's developed a pretty good relationship there with Andy Dalton and some good chemistry, it looks like. And the 49ers, as well as their defense can play, struggles in the secondary. They just gave up big games to both DeAndre Hopkins and Greg Dortch. I like Chris Olave to continue his hot play and potentially bust off a long touchdown run in this one. Second wide receiver, Keenan Allen, now back in the fold. Saw him make some nice plays last week. Had that nice deep catch. He's playing a Cardinals defense that struggles. Brandon Ayuk scored 2 touchdowns on them. I know Debo ran his in. I believe he had 2 touchdowns as well, but I think Keenan Allen is going to slowly but surely get more and more involved back into this offense as the Chargers look to make a playoff push, and they get to play a Cardinals team that's in shambles. They're reeling. Just fired 2 coaches again today. That whole operation just seems to be a complete and utter shit show. Not saying the Chargers are much better with kind of what they've gone through with the injury bug for most of the year, but still, I trust them more than the Cardinals, and I think Justin Herbert has been coming back to life since he's been getting some of these weapons back. I think him and Keenan Allen have a nice vintage kind of duo day in this one. We'll go to tight ends now. Juwan Johnson at the 49ers, the second Saint on this list against a really good 49ers defense, but as I always say, dart throw time with the tight ends. I think you got to pick guys that you think have a good chance to get into the end zone. Juwan Johnson seemingly does that, if not every week, like every other week, he finds his way in. And he also is a really nice, young, intriguing, like developmental player. I think they're going to continue to give him snaps, get him on the field. I think he can be a really nice tight end in the NFL going forward. And the only way he can continue to improve is keep playing him. So give him another chance against the 49ers defense where I said the secondary struggles. I think Juwan Johnson might find the end zone, find pay dirt again. Next tight end, we'll go with Cole Kmet, sticking with him third straight week. Only had, I believe, 6 points last week. Playing at the Jets this week. I don't know if Justin Fields will play. That could kind of affect this, but Trevor Siemian's the backup, as most backup quarterbacks. They want to come in, take care of the football, manage the game, and that usually kind of drums up a nice little formula for success for tight ends in the little dink and dunk game. If he goes out there and gets you 5 catches for 50 yards, 10 points, you'll take that. If you don't have Travis Kelce, you're screwed at tight end pretty much. I saw the gap between Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews at tight end 1 and tight end 2 is larger than the gap between Mark Andrews at tight end 2 and Greg Dulcich, the Broncos tight end, at tight end 33. That's how dominant Kelce's been and how weak the other tight ends in the league have been this year. Kittle finally came to life, but just when that happens, Kyle Pitts goes out, Dallas Goedert's out on IR. It just doesn't seem to be getting any better at tight end right now in terms of fantasy. So Cole Kmet, I think he's proven to be a pretty reliable option. You know he's going to get targets and be on the field. Keep him in your lineup. Defense might be a bit of a surprising play, but the Vikings only scored 3 points last week on the Cowboys. They play on a short week this week. Not much time to get things fixed and figured out. I'm going with the Patriots on Thursday night on Thanksgiving. Also, Kevin O'Connell, first time coaching in a Thursday night game as a head coach, first time on that short week. I think Bill Belichick kind of runs circles around him and really throws some looks that the Vikings weren't going to be prepared for. And I think the Patriots are going to win this game. And if the Patriots do find a way to win this game, most of those games this year have been low scoring. We could be looking at like a 14-13, 2017 type ball game. And that would probably mean some poor results for the Minnesota Vikings this week. So I'm looking to keep Vikings out of my lineup if possible, besides guys named Justin Jefferson, and start a Patriots defense. I think they're in for a nice week. Now we go to the sit list. We're going to recap the start real quick. Geno Smith and Brady at quarterback, Jeff Wilson Jr., James Conner at running back, Olave and Keenan Allen at receiver, Juwan Johnson and Cole Kmet at tight end, and Patriots D versus the Vikings. Sit list, we'll go with First one, I just touched on why I think they're going to have a bad week. Don't have to get much more into it. I'm going to say Kirk Cousins versus Patriots. You also combine that with Kirk Cousins in primetime. Sunday night is his best night in primetime, going 4-4. But I think it's kind of hard to come back from that 3-point performance that they put up last week and go out there and have a nice performance this week on a short week. And in prime time, you just can't seem to trust Kirk Cousins. They had in their only other primetime game this year 7 points against the Eagles. So um, don't like Kirk Cousins this week or any Vikings not named Justin Jefferson. If you have Justin Jefferson, you have to start him. Second quarterback, we're going to say Jimmy G versus the Saints. It kind of seems like he'll go out there every once in a while and have a game like he did last night, throw for multiple touchdowns. Then they'll come back next week with a complete new game plan and really run the ball. He also plays a Saints defense that is pretty up and down throughout the year, but they always are in for a few really good defensive performances. Wouldn't surprise me to see Jimmy G after people are now, oh, the 49ers are so dangerous with all these new weapons. Jimmy G looked great last night. Wouldn't be surprised. It would be the most Jimmy G-esque thing to come out here this week and shit the bed and let the Saints dominate him. So I'm going to keep him on the bench this week if that's one of your starting quarterback options. Next, we go to the running backs. We'll go to Turkey Day again with Ezekiel Elliott. I'm keeping him on the bench this week versus the Giants. Tony Pollard looks far and away the better running back. Zeke's still kind of coming back from that knee injury. I think they want to keep him fresh for the playoffs because if they are a team that does have NFC Championship, Super Bowl aspirations, if Philadelphia does wind up getting the 1 seed and you have to go through them, you're going to have to play in the cold outside. They want him to be there ready for these cold element type of playoff games. With Tony Pollard providing so much explosion, you want to have Zeke ready to go down the stretch and be that hammer type of back when it comes to the cold, the playoffs. And I think that they're going to continue to have this reduced role for him. Plays a Giants defense that isn't that bad at all. They're a frisky bunch, and they could kind of turn the game upside down at any moment. So we're going to keep Zeke on the bench this week until Tony Pollard sees more of a reduced role or Zeke sees his role back to increase to what he was before. Next, we'll sit Samaje Perine at the Titans. Came out and had a nice week last week after Joe Mixon got knocked out with a concussion. He's probably one of the main kind of hot waiver wire pickups this week, but plays a Titans defense. If Joe Mixon isn't starting, you might have to throw him in your lineup just due to kind of volume and touches alone. But I'm not running to my lineup to start him unless it's an emergency. Titans defense going into last week was allowing the second fewest rushing yards per game to running backs. They shut down A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones on the ground. I think the Titans have revenge game kind of all over this one, and they want to prove that last year's loss in the playoffs to the Bengals was a fluke. I think they're going to be motivated, ready to go, and stifle this kind of Bengals offense this week that still is without Jamar Chase. I think it's going to, and if they're missing Joe Mixon as well, it's going to be really hard to move the ball on the Titans this week, I think. Wide receivers now. Courtland Sutton at the Panthers. This is my best bet of the week on NFL Big Five games of the week. Under 36.5, I think it is. In that game, 35.5 it might be even. I think it's going to be like 13-10 between the Broncos and the Panthers. Russell Wilson has just been so bad. That entire offense has just been putrid all year. Panthers have a nice young defense, held the Ravens only 13 last week. We're sitting Courtland Sutton, and just to piggyback off that, we're sitting DJ Moore as well. Panthers receiver versus the Broncos, most likely going to be matched up against Pat Surtain. The most insane stat, I think, in the NFL right now might be that the Vikings have a negative 2-point differential and sit at 8-2, but it's if the Broncos scored just exactly 20 points in every game this year, they would be 9-1. That's how good the defense has been and how bad the offense has been. Can't trust anyone starting on the Panthers this week, even if it's like Deontay Foreman or DJ Moore, two talented guys who have had their moments this year. Sam Darnold was just announced to be starting today as well, his first football of the season, so who knows what you're going to see from him. Stay as far away from putting these Broncos or Panthers in your lineup this week. We go to the tight end now. David Njoku versus the Bucs. We're going to sit as well. If the Bucs are good in one area of that defense the most, I think it's kind of in the middle there with the linebackers and some pretty strong safety play. I think this is going to be an ugly kind of game for the Browns. They're really just trying to trug along until they get Deshaun Watson back. It's a big game for them. I believe it's next week when he comes back. If he comes back and they win, they find a way to win this game, maybe they can push for that 7th playoff spot. But tight end, as I always say, it's like a dart throw. I just see Bucks. I know that offense hasn't been that great this year, but the defense has still been pretty stout. I think you can find a better option at tight end. Next tight end, we'll sit Robert Tonyan at the Eagles. Had a few nice games. Now he started to taper off again. Eagles defense has been really good for most of this season. I know I was shitting on them last week, but this isn't the rush defense. Robert Tanyan, um, it's just been such an up and down tight end in his few years in the league. He had that one year where I believe he had 12 touchdowns. Now he's really kind of faded back into oblivion. And the Eagles are pretty stout against the tight ends. Thinking off the top of my head, I can't really think of other than maybe week one, TJ Hawkinson, much tight ends having success on them this year. So keep Tanyan on your bench. And then defense, we're going to sit the Titans versus the Bengals. I know it's a little counterintuitive as I talked about Samaje Perine, but just looking at the matchup list this week, it's kind of hard to determine. I think, as I said, they're gonna have revenge on their mind in that one, but I think it could kind of be like a back and forth type game where Joe Burrow, all he needs is to be feeling and having a good day, and he can still really produce with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Um, that matchup for P. Ryan against the Titans was more so I just love that defensive front and their run defense so much. And I think P. Ryan is going to be one of those guys where so many people are picking him up and then he's just going to flop and people are going to be complaining. You'll just see that type of thing all over Twitter. But I do think Joe Burrow can get hot. Well, obviously, I don't think Jamar Chase will be back this week. Sounds like he's returning to practice, but Titans are like the 15th ranked defense this week on most platforms. Still a really elite run defense, but I think all you need is a hot day from Joe Burrow, and he could put up some points, and that game could maybe engage in a bit of a higher scoring matchup than we think. But running back through the sit list real quick, Kirk Cousins and Jimmy G at quarterback, Zeke and P. Ryan at running back, Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore at receiver, and Joe and Tanyan at tight end, and then defense, Titans versus Bengals. But that'll do it for the Stardom Situm show here on Beef Up Front on Pick Swap Media. Make sure, please, to like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family. Everyone, please enjoy Thanksgiving. Stay safe out there, and we will talk next week. Hope to get another victory.